Welcome to If This Then What, where we connect the dots and explore the big what if shaping the world. I'm your host, Joshua Giles. That's Sydney Davis. Sydney, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Like your wife,
Yeah.
JD and I are a little bit under the weather.
Mm.
Um, but luckily we can do this from home in our comfy pajamas and stuff.
So,
How are
so you
you?
said you said you like my wife. Y'all had like a meeting
Mhm.
before the meeting. You we My wife is um I'm doing this because I want to talk about AI and I want to like have a process that I'm constantly staying on top of what's news, having to talk about it in a way that is somewhat professional, somewhat formal, and I'm trying to put things into thoughts. Uh, Sydney, why are you doing this?
Why am I doing this
Why are you
podcast?
doing this show? Why are you doing the show?
Well, one, to have fun and be have a
Facts.
creative outlet with someone I don't mind hanging out with.
Facts. Don't mind hanging out with you either.
Right.
Uh,
But other than that, just to I wanna I mean, AI is the future, and I wanna stay engaged in, how it's, moving forward and developing, and I wanna be a part of that in some way. So and I'm not a coder or techie at all, so
and so if you put AI knowledge on a scale of 0 to 10, and or I wouldn't say knowledge, I would say like enthusiasm, right? I would say like enthusiasm. I'm probably at like a 9. You're probably at like a 7. And my wife, who is doing our socials, is at like a 2. Like the other day, we were having a conversation and she just like put her hand up and she was like, Josh, I don't want to talk about AI anymore. It's too much. It's too much.
That sounds
And I
like
was
me
like,
whenever JD's talking about the stock market.
uh, it was like one of those moments where I was just like, yeah, I've been talking about it too much. So it is hilarious to me that she's actually enjoying the socials a part of it. And so because I think that the part of the AI fascination for me is that it's ever changing. And so it's this
Mhm.
world that has just this constant flow of things happening. And so she's slowly getting into like that arena of like, okay, where are the sources that are quality sources? Where are who are the people, who are the characters that are part of the game? And
Mhm.
so I think just hearing her get into it, I'm like, this is what I've been trying to talk to you about for, for the last year and a half. So I'm so happy that she's working with you, and
I'm
because I
too.
just want to talk about AI.
Yeah,
Well,
me too.
I'm so happy. I've got some fun openers that is going on. Have you heard about Sam or Elon's offer to try
Yes.
and buy OpenAI? Okay, so you've heard about the squabbles, and I just wanted to briefly talk about the squabbles because it is still hilarious to me. Um, Also, I literally to make these slides, I go to Google Gemini and I put the 2 bullet points that I want,
Mhm.
and it creates everything else. So all it
That's
had on here
hilarious.
was that Elon Musk was trying to buy OpenAI, and you get like a Twitter bird talking to a devil. It's like I almost changed it, but then I was like, no, we needed Gemini's Gemini's Google's instant reaction
This is their
to
interpretation.
this is the interpretation. So Elon Musk, he leads an investors. He wants to try and get buy OpenAI for $97.4 billion, and basically Sam Altman had a Twitter response, which again, Twitter squabbles on the like platform that Elon owns, who is like the person that's driving all this. So Stan posts on there, no thank you, but we will buy Twitter for 9.74 billion if you want. And Elon calls him a swindler. And then
This is
this commentary that was right under Elon calling him a swindler was that this is Kendrick versus Drake for nerds. And I thought that was very apt right after the Super Bowl. So right now, there's a big conference that's happening in I think Paris right now. It's like AI in Europe, and so they have all these people that are that are like the leaders of AI companies, and so Sam Altman is there and is like head of his board, and like they're all getting the questions right,
Yeah.
and so this was Sam Altman's. So he gets asked, "Hey, what do you think about Elon Musk?" And
no, the OpenAI mission is not for sale. Elon tries all sorts of things for a long time. This is this week's episode.
You take it seriously at all? What do you think he's trying to drive at with this?
I think he's probably just trying to slow us down. He obviously is a competitor. He's working hard and he's raised a lot of money for XAI, and they're trying to compete with us from a technological perspective, from getting the product into the market. And I wish he would just compete by building a better product, but I think there's been a lot of tactics, many lawsuits, all sorts of other crazy stuff. Now this. And we'll try to just put our head down and keep working.
Do you think Musk's approach then is from a position of insecurity about XAI?
Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy.
You feel for him?
I do, actually. I don't think he's like a happy person. I do feel for him.
Okay. Do you worry that he has this proximity to the president and he can influence the decision making of the US presidency and policies around this agenda on AI?
Not particularly. Maybe I should, but not particularly. I mean, I try to just wake up and think about like how we're going to make our technology better.
Okay, so thoughts.
It's obviously juicy. It's interesting because JD and I talk a lot. We were on our Starbucks drive this morning talking about this, and as a nonprofit, to sell, there's a certain process you have to go through to meet the boards. Like they've when you form a nonprofit, there are guidelines that are made. I'm sure I'm not using the right word, but you have to take the best offer that will be the offer that is best. So
for the shareholders,
that is the best one. Yeah, the most beneficial one. And so he started out with 97.4.
Well, I think that's interesting because that's for like a for-profit. A nonprofit has like they have to fulfill the mission of the company, which is like famously going against like the whole mission of the company was that it's supposed to be open source, and they have several models that they haven't open sourced. And the thing that is protecting them from a hostile takeover, which is what he did to Twitter, was he threw out a number that was above market, and stakeholders was like, you got to pay that. Like you can't, because it's like market manipulation if you offer something that you're not willing to stand by. And the fact that he's throwing this out, and it's interesting because it's like the nonprofit is protecting him, but also the layer below the layer, right? Like you've got two grown men that are snapping back and forth to each other. But like the real layer of this is like, these are two competitors. They both have AI products. They both have they're competing against each other. Elon is competing with compute, and Sam, it seems like he's competing with like speed to market. So he's just ahead of people because he probably didn't release their models whenever they first had them, and kind of like did it a little bit along the ride. And I just think it's so interesting that Elon, it seems like the offer is really just trying to slow Sam Altman down. And I just love the fact that Sam and OpenAI is just not worried about it, and is going to just be like, hey, this is coming from places of insecurity. I wish I could be the fly on the wall of the hotel room where the coach of the CEO, like whoever CEO like is the coach of Sam Altman and like the whole board. I don't know how they went to bed last night. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're having like emergency meetings. Like it hits the fan before you hit like all these big stages that you have out.
Okay, now calm down. Here's how we're going to address this.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Um, oh, cool. Well, how about we jump into how we used AI this week? And I know that you've got the first news, and so I will just briefly talk about the ways that I've used AI this week.
Go
Um,
for it.
I am going to be submitting a patent. Uh, I had a thought over the weekend. I'm not going to tell what the patent was, but I
Okay.
just want to encourage the fact that, and maybe once I submit it and once it's like registered and I get like they're like, hey, you're like waiting on this, we might talk about it. It's actually somewhat related. It's tangentially related to a previous thing that we've talked on here.
Okay.
And um, I just I had a random thought. I did a deep research in the field of that thought. I did several deep researches along like the peripherals that like made like what you would have to figure out the peripherals before you figured out the thing that it's in. Um, and so I had 70, 80-ish pages of research that the AI
Mhm.
model had made on like these three related fields to one another. And I put all of those into, um, I prompted to get to a prompt that prompted my final like, hey, these are the ideas that I want to like try and combine. I would like to build a prompt that helps you combine them in these types of ways. And so
Mhm.
like I prompted several times of like, hey, do you understand what I'm meaning by this? Do you like abstractly, I'm going to give you all this research. And so at some point it called it a meta prompt because what I did was then I dropped that prompt into my research paper prompts and it then had an output, and then I dropped the output into my other conversation where I was telling it, "Hey, this is my goal, and this is what I'm going to do."
Mhm.
And so it started talking to one another and tell me what the next prompt that I should be doing. And
Wow.
it
Yeah.
produced like it's like the whole part of this like came through, and um, it was I feel like I'm one of those people that just like has random ideas and it's just so fun to be able to like drive things to like a
Yeah.
final type of way without having to like spend hours and hours and hours of research. Instead, you can just, hey, go out there, do the research for me read the research, me understand it in a way that I can prompt and then have it kind of combine it in a way. Um,
Yeah.
so that was my like kind of bigger use. That was probably the thing that annoyed Linda over the weekend told me to stop talking about AI.
Was this one of the things where you would go and prompt it, go away for 20 minutes, come back, check in on it?
Yeah, no, the prompts that I was doing with the deep research. So not only did I prompt to like do the prompting combining, anytime I do a
Mhm.
deep research at this point, especially using ChatGPT's deep research, because it is
Mhm.
so good. Like it doesn't get lazy. I feel like Gemini's deep research got lazy throughout the process at some point.
Mm.
OpenAI's is e- especially with our higher end models, it is really good. Like it's hard to explain how good it is. And so to make sure that I get the best results out of it, I have a conversation about what I'm even asking for
Mhm.
with the goal that that conversation, I will then tell it to write a deep research prompt that I can use in a separate conversation. Then
Mm.
OpenAI asked me a bunch of questions about the deep research. I then jump back into the original conversation that I was having, and I say, "Hey, what should I answer on these questions? Answer it over here." Um, and the outputs and the concentration of information that I get from those outputs is it, it is very difficult for me not to call it like the A agent. Like, and the
Mm.
combination of having a prompting conversation that then prompts a different conversation, and the fact that I use these models in like very different ways, but they all complement one another. It is, it has been, it's kind of one of those like creative moments for me that helps me bring a lot of my random ideas to life in a way that is like has some meat to it.
Yeah.
And so I love it. I loved that was kind of my big use case this week.
I love that. You're inspiring me. Everyone knows I have my handy dandy notebook with me at all times. And I don't always, but sometimes whenever I come up with a business idea, I write it down. And you're making me want to go back through my notebooks and see what some business ideas are and see if I can do that too. So for the user, and I just thought of a way to mention Linda. So one, if this is a side
My
note,
lovely wife.
if we didn't use the term "listen, Linda," we'd be nuts. Like that's a missed opportunity. Okay. And there's a podcast that I love. I don't know if I can say their name
Go for it. Yeah.
without sponsoring.
Shout them
Oh,
out.
it's Smartless. It's
Okay.
got oh gosh, I'm awful with names. Sean, Will, and the guy in Ozark.
Mhm.
Everyone knows I'm bad with names. What's the main character in Ozark? I love him.
I know nobody's
You're
names.
no
If it's
help
not,
to this.
I
Oh,
Linda's gonna be listen, Linda, you're gonna be
okay.
laughing at this because if Sydney's ever trusting me to know people's names,
Oh
in
no,
like
we
pop
know
culture,
that this is. I don't have that either. So between
it's
the two
not.
of us, hopefully our listeners know. And if you know, feel free to comment below. And,
Please comment below how
who I'm
dumb we
missing,
are.
the main guy from Ozarks and is the third guy on Smartlist. But anyways, in there, Sean is the guy from oh no, Will and Grace.
Okay.
And what they do is the part of their segment is his sister knows nothing about the entertainment industry. All three of them are in the entertainment industry. So when they talk about something that the common listener isn't going to know about, us peasants, they say, wait, we got it for Tracy, my sister Tracy. And so I think whenever we're talking about AI, I can say, well, hold on now. We got to for Linda. Listen, Linda, So listen, Linda.
Do you have like it's very difficult for me not to gatekeep business ideas because I'm like, one day I'm gonna do XYZ. And then it's just like I get so many ideas that
Mhm.
I feel like I shouldn't gatekeep anymore. Do you have any business ideas that you've been like gatekeeping that you're just like, I could probably let that one go?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure when I go through my journal, I'll go, yeah. Because there might be some that are on the back of my head, but when I remember other ideas, it might make me think that some of them that I do have at the forefront of my mind, I should just let go.
Okay.
You know?
So I've decided not to gatekeep one of my ideas. And this was not pre-planned. So it's actually super hilarious that we're talking about business ideas that
Okay.
we want to develop. Do you remember it's like episode 2, I told you that I was developing a application that I want to have for my kid as a dad.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And I
I
remember you telling me what it was too, but I'm not going to
so
say anything unless you want to say it.
So it is called ventureme.ai. So I still own the URL, and I just think that someday that will be a thing. But on Twitter, Google is going through and like highlighting some of their like clients that are using their tools to do cool things. And one of the cool things was tangentially very, very closely related to adventureme.com or ventureme.ai.
Tell me
Where
a story about a dragon.
Celestia wasn't like the other dragons. She preferred baking cakes to breathing fire. Her scales shimmered with every color of the rainbow, a stark contrast to the dark, rocky caves her family called home. One day, Celestia decided she'd had enough of caves and charcoal and set off to find a kitchen. How would you like the story to continue? Perhaps Celestia finds a village renowned for its baking? You can suggest whatever you want.
She should meet a leprechaun.
Celestia.
Oh my
So-
gosh.
I wanted a version where my kid could interact with like children's style stories, and I would have some level of parental control, and they could like add to it. And I was thinking about it with Linda today, and I was just like, that's such a like what I would consider kind of like the first time you start using OpenAI, it's the thing that, or like any chat or AI, it's like the thing that like is most obvious. It's like storytelling is like it's so good at it, and you can just
Mhm.
change grades up and down. And I was like, you could just create something where the parent can control the reading level, and the kids are in the books. And so, um, yeah, I was gonna
I love
create
that.
that with like Adventure Me, but I don't have time to create this business. I've got listen, at some point, if coding gets so good that I can just dump all my documentation into it and just spit something out, I'm ready. But it
Hey,
seems
we're
like
about to
there's
have the 50th best coder available to all of us, you know?
probably the number one best coder by end of 2025. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so uh, it's really interesting to see the amount of creativity that
Mhm.
is in that gets like creates businesses and like I know should we jump into your AI in the news?
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll
Um,
come back to your use case. I'm not letting you go that easy. That segue was just too easy.
yeah, we have to. So for my news this week, obviously, me being in talent strategy, and just really tying people strategy to business strategy, something that's always on my radar is how AI is going to affect the workforce. And I know that that's on a lot of people's minds, right? I'd be lying if I said, will AI replace, one of my business functions is talent acquisition, recruiting. Will AI replace us one day? So of course it's in the back of my head, but also just to be the subject matter expert that I'm trying to be, I want to keep up with it. So one of the big news of the week was Meta letting go of their bottom 5%. And the frustrations are for various reasons. Obviously, that's really hard. That's a lot of employees. But one of the things is this is caused by AI. And whenever headlines take off, they just go. And here's the deal. Letting go of your top performers is a common thing. What was the thing that I sent you, the term?
Jack Welch. You
Yeah,
mean
the
bottom
Jack Welch. Do
performers.
you have? Yes, the bot. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Letting go of the bottom before performers. I mean, that's a common thing in many industries, especially in banking. Um, so this isn't something that's new. I just want to make sure that people are aware of it. One of the things that JD and I were talking through is, yeah, it is hard to be. They were talking about on CNBC this morning about how it's hard to be let go in this environment, knowing that they have it on the headlines. Meta let go of their bottom performers, and now you're on the market. You're a bottom performer. Here's the other thing, though: bottom performer of Meta is a top performer at a lot of companies. You know, and so that's one aspect. This is normal. Um, this happens often. The other thing is that not all of the companies, but Meta, for instance, have stated that they plan on rehiring the same amount of people that they've let go. They want to create an environment where you're surrounded by other top performers who are passionate about what they're doing. And they're not looking to get rid of humans, but those roles that come on and are opened up, they're going to look different. And that's just a part of our skill sets having to change in the way that we work change. But they seem to be, of course, there's more there for us to understand, but they seem to be showing that they do want to bring the humans along. So
Mm.
I don't know if that gives anybody comfort or a little bit more insight or perspective, but what I would say is definitely read into reports a little bit more. Don't just stick at the headlines. If you want to pull up that one website where I go through the tech layoffs, I believe there earlier, so my bad.
Yeah.
Um,
No, you're good.
but this just helps give a little bit more transparency. So if you scroll down, it talks about keep going. So right here, it's summarized. Go back up. To just the bullet. Yep. So right here is where it summarizes the layoff. So January 2025, 6,000, we'll call it 6,000 employees laid off, tech layoffs. So this is all just tech layoffs. If we want to get really specific, of course, there are other industries where people are being let go because of efficiencies with AI, but this is specifically with tech. And what I would urge people to do, and we can include this link at the bottom, is go in here and dig up more information around what's led to these layoffs and what the company's plan is moving forward. So don't just stay on those headliners, y'all. They're meant for clickbait. They're meant to dramatize things and get you to look at it. So just want to urge people about
Yeah.
that. I laid that out well.
No, I think you did a fantastic job. I think the headlines of layoffs is always the thing, and
Mhm.
it's funny because you we produce this show pretty laid back style. It's pretty laid back, and you just texted me, remember Jack Welch.
Yes.
And I was and with no context, no like
I didn't even think about how it could sound. Remember him.
and I was like, let's listen to ChatGPT. What possibly could Sydney be talking about? And so I asked ChatGPT, I was like, list 3 bullets, the points and ways that someone could interpret this next text saying Jack Welch approach. And that was the only comment. And I was like, man, does Sydney not know that like he gets kind of credited for being a jerk? He's like the guy everybody's like blaming for like Boeing going like it's like the approach is like you just lay people off and cut cost. And so yeah, kind of like firing people and letting people go is not new. But the
No.
current panic slash the current attention, the things that get the clicks is commenting on
Mhm.
numbers that have always been there. And so you're absolutely correct. That's been a thing. I know my old roommate worked for Exxon, and they like they're like I think there's like their bottom 15%. Like I remember him telling me it was a crazy number. It was
Yeah.
like an automatic. At the end of the year, you're gone, and everybody knew performance reviews, and it's like their managers had to put people that were under that level, and so
I'm
it's
trying to
definitely
look for
not.
there was another big layoff with um Exxon recently that was announced. That JD sent me. I can't find it, but I mean it was pretty big. And that was announced today, I believe.
Oh wow. I don't I don't mean to comment on Exxon, but there's so many close people to me that are related to somebody at Exxon.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm being rude and looking through my text to see if I can find it, but yeah.
but yeah, I would say there's definitely going to be labor shifts, right? There's definitely going to be jobs that no longer have application. And I think if I were to borrow something from Sam Altman, who was up here earlier, um, he kind of talked about the fact that like the jobs that are going to go are the jobs that don't like let people be creative and let people be human. They're like the
Mm,
jobs that like are a little bit less human like. And so how do we free those people up to have access to the same level of abilities that people can afford to have when they've got some buffer in their lives.
yeah.
And obviously, that change doesn't happen without a little pain. And I think that
Mhm,
that's the thing that everybody's kind of anticipating is that there's going to be some pain that's associated with it.
mhm.
And I think that it's definitely um, something that needs to be a topic, right? People need to be talking about this. And I think
Yes.
at this conference that they're having over in Europe, JD Vance actually kind of gave probably from my perspective um, the best speech that anybody in government has given addressing AI. Basically saying we've got to deregulate, make sure that we regulate purposefully. And then like that was the first step, because Europe is so far behind right now because they've got just so much regulations. And on top of that, they essentially tariff our tech people by their regulations that they have, because our
Hmm.
our tech industry just cannot keep up with their levels of regulations, and so we just get fined all the time, and our government just hasn't protected one of our best industries. And so basically, this was
Hmm.
like hey, we're not going to put up with regulation in this area. So don't do it. Um, and so, but part of his speech was actually around how the US government is thinking about labor and how it has to be a labor first approach, but we also have to capture this kind of, I think you call it lightning in a bottle, just like this is a moment. And I think
Mhm.
everybody is taking us like time to recognize like, hey, there's some competition here. We have
Mhm.
to make sure that we are competing. Also, we have to make sure that we're protecting our people and
Yeah.
allies.
Like a more or just a more recent example to show people how things can be painful at first and they can progress, and knock on wood, things can still happen. I'm not saying anything is crossed the finish line, but if we remember when DeepSeek came out, I mean, everyone thought people were going to spend that these massive companies were going to spend the spending on AI was going to be cut tremendously, right? It's only increased spending on AI development. So
Yeah,
just think about at the
since
beginning, we were
then,
all scared and the full circle.
yeah, it's like since DeepSeek came out and like everybody was worried that people were going to spend less money. I think I've seen multiple companies come out and just be like crazy numbers. I think Google, like their stock price dipped because they announced that they were going to be investing more than what they had previously in previous like times. And so it's
Mm,
like every person that understands what we're doing is recognizing the fact that like let's keep pouring the gasoline because we're on like the edge of something really amazing. I think from like a human perspective,
yeah.
I would love to see some type of graph that showed AI's spend as it relates to other like human innovations, like
Mm,
inflation, like adjusted, um,
mhm.
because I can't think of anything in my lifetime that has had this $500 billion initiative and $80 billion and 60, like it's just like every time I turn around there's some B at the end of a number,
Yeah.
and it's companies just throwing money into it. Uh,
Yeah. Probably the next highest is spending on our military efforts, you know? But outside of that, yeah.
and that's, I mean, man, thinking about AI and military, like have you used I mean that's Palantir, right? I don't know if you know of the company, and they're, I don't know if
No.
JD's talked to you about, they are going to essentially be the Lockheed Martin of AI and government contracts. Like they basically, my understanding of their previous company was like how data system, like interoperability and data systems working, which is exactly what AI needs. And they're like already contracted with the government in multiple places. So Palantir is probably going to be
Palantir.
that the government like AI winner.
I'm
Um,
gonna look into them.
yeah, but it's you see, like have you seen the videos of the drones in China, like where there's like a dancing dragon up in the sky?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wild.
y- you can have a dancing dragon up there for however many minutes and like just have multiple shapes, and basically that like it's really cool to look at, and it's probably privately done, but it would not be this pushed in like society if it wasn't
Mhm.
China just being like, hey, you know all the crazy things that's happening over in Ukraine with drones? Guess who has all the drone control? Like that's what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So
Just a
We're
big
in a
mind
race.
game.
It's
Yeah.
all mind games. Like it's
Yep.
all of this is mind games, and there's layers to it. And then there's my second use case of the week, and
Let's
I
hear it.
just want
Look
to
at you
use.
segueing.
You look at me. So let me not do this one, and let's just share this tab. So I have lights for because we're at night where we record at night, and I had like adjusted my light. I had this big like trifold thing that was set up in my office, and we've since moved Linda's like home office into our office, and so she's like, "This boom, like this trifold thing's got to go." So I bought a stand, and I already had a stand for my mic here, and I get it in. I'm like, perfect. I can just like adjust which mic I had. Well, the things didn't match. Like the size of the
The
fittings didn't
connectors.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, hey,
Oh.
I bought I bought these two items. I need some kind of reducer to make the large fitting on the boom arm work for the small receiver on my light. Hey there, here's your different sizing. Then I said, hey, research and find me a resource. And I ordered my Amazon. Uh, and that's something that
Wow.
I'm sure every like dude out there in the world's like, you didn't know you needed a 5/8 connector to a 3 like quarter-inch thread. Like you didn't know
Mhm.
that. No, I didn't. I didn't know that. I'm
As
sorry.
a
I'm
matter of
sorry,
fact, I
Jeremy.
did it.
Sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry, Dad. It's like I didn't learn it. Okay. Um, but I like that's how I'm using AI. Like I know China's wanting drone supremacy, but I'm just over here creating patents and getting boom or like fitting
Yeah, we
adjustments
need to do more,
for my life.
obviously.
What was that?
I said we need to do more, obviously.
Definitely more. Like the more like why when I ordered this mic did and like me think have the idea that I was just gonna like interchange the lights? Did AI not tell me that I was also gonna need this fitting?
Hmm.
Prediction, I give it 8 years before
Eight?
that's like a 8 years. I think that that's so trivial and low on
Oh,
on people's like problems to solve.
bro, you don't think Amazon? I mean, Amazon now, what is it, Rufus? That you message, it's their AI, and you can message Amazon and say, what did I ask Amazon the other day? Oh, we have an old TV upstairs in our loft that we use for workout space.
Mhm,
It's pretty cool. But the
mhm,
TV is from back in 2016. And so it doesn't have a screen mirroring capability. And I'm not about to buy another TV screen for the loft where we do workouts, you know? So I just
mhm.
went into Amazon and rather than trying to think of what it is or whatever, I just typed in the search bar. I have an old TV. I need a converter that's not expensive but has good reviews. Hmm.
Wait a second. Does
Huh.
Amazon have an AI chatbot in their search?
Yeah, it's
Did I
Rufus.
miss did I miss this?
I mean, I don't
I
know if it's like their official thing, but yeah, there's a Rufus that you can chat. Okay, so another use case of mine that I wasn't planning on sharing. I don't know if you know this, but Amazon has an AI bot.
it does have an AI bot.
Today, Tuesday,
Yeah.
February 11th at 8:55 p.m. Sydney Davis, Sydney Shagani Davis showed Joshua W. Giles something with AI that he didn't know about.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
I feel
It's
like this is the segment we have to have like a noise to make or something to call out whenever I do this because I feel like it's
and
gonna be very rare.
we need like a little like club but
Mhm. Oh yes,
um
do the horn.
but no Rufus
Mhm.
okay like AI is something, but at what point is it on Rufus's like level that I've 2 months ago bought a light that then 2 months later I bought a different like arm. I just that fitting like that's got to be
I don't
so
know that's gonna be
meta.
automatic. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
got
that's
it.
gonna be automatic yet, but I do get what you're talking about, future developments. But 8
Yeah.
years? No.
Hey, I'm more talking like it's
No.
just so trivial. It's so trivial.
So maybe
Probably.
segue into our video about are we gonna show the video about the rankings of the coder comparisons?
Pause.
Okay.
What video?
The
What video?
didn't you Oh, maybe this was an old video. No. Yeah, the Sam Altman talk and then the guy reviewing it, he has the at the top. Maybe that was for last
Oh,
week.
no, so I had I put that there as like a placeholder of like maybe
Okay.
we would use it. I
Mhm.
should have put it at the bottom because I actually was intending on using it, but I didn't like pull those things.
Well, so I
I
have
should
a
have.
then what we can do because what I'm talking about is at the beginning. It's
Okay.
where the guy then speaks on it and does the comparisons, and I have some layman term questions like, how do they measure a coder's comparison or rank? How do you measure that? So how are they
So
saying that it's the 50th best coder, you know?
so there's competition coding. Are we so how are we jumping back
Oh.
into this? I need to understand.
You're saying
So
8 years before Amazon's able to connect the dots on your recent
okay.
purchases.
Okay. And then do you want to just like because those videos are posting to our social. I just didn't
Mhm.
pull them for this perspective. So I can talk about it. I just didn't know
Oh.
what things you were talking. I've watched the whole interview. So
Could
um
we reference the posting then?
yeah.
'Cause you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
to show it, you can say in the if you know what day it was posted, if in
Y-
the
It was
title
the
of
day
it,
before the European conference. So I will reference
just to
it.
guide people to go to the video. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From this?
When you're talking about it, I haven't watched it in a week. So
Mhm.
it's been a bit
Yeah,
since I've watched it. So it's not very fresh, but I can speak towards it. So all right. So
okay.
I've just said it's going to be 8 years.
Mhm.
You pick it up with can we talk about
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
that video. So go.
Okay. Well, let's use that to segue into the video, where, one of our I forget his name because I'm not good with names, but that guy that we
Wes
like well
Roth.
yep, that guy, in his review of Sam Altman's talk, I think well, hold on, pause. Did I just say watch? I think I said watch. What
Is
what
that a problem?
what date what date was that video posted? I just wanna reference the date at least on our social.
It was 4 days ago. So Sunday.
The 8th? I think it will help drive traffic. That's
Ninth.
why I'm bringing it
Ninth.
up. The 9th? Okay.
Ninth. Yeah.
And then what Linda,
Mhm.
what you could do is I know you were talking about things popping up like the subscribe button, but if I talk about one of our posts trying to reference traffic to go there, then if you could make I don't know if it's possible, but if you could make that a link to that episode pop up for people to click on to go reference, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
You said it's the
anytime
clip
we
at the
say
very beginning of this
referenced
video
you what?
that the clip at the very beginning of this video, that's what you want me to talk about?
Yeah, just him
I'm gonna
talking about, like,
I'm gonna listen to it
the
real quick and
okay,
refresh
go for
myself.
it, because also what I wanna comment on is his calculator reference.
Yep.
How he
Okay.
talks about people were freaked out about calculators, but you can't out calculate a calculator. Do you wanna watch it together really quick?
I
Just
don't
the
know
beginning part?
how let me see if I share this screen um, and pull it up.
Because we can cut watching it together.
Like, wow, an AI, it's
Can you hear?
millionth best
Mhm.
people that do this. That's
You
pretty
can hear
good.
it?
Yeah.
We then had a model.
Oh.
The progress.
Well, why don't we just make this part of the video then?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so
So
then you
you asked me, well, why don't we just segue to the video this week? I'll pull it
Mhm.
up and then I'll just add it to the screen and we'll just
Okay.
watch it together. Cool.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so what a great way to segue. And I'm just keep trying to think of things in our show that we can do consistently, and we'll like try them on like cats and see if we keep them or not. One of my favorite ones is Michelle Buteau on her podcast, Adulting. Whenever they do a wild segue, they say, "Okay, mall cop." So maybe we could try that out. But because I'm corny, I'm all about the dad jokes. We know this.
Oh man, my brain just like freezes in like time whenever like a phrase that I'm not expecting, it just gets said and I'm like, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
It's like my worst, and I've done improv and I'm like, I've heard all the
Yeah.
crazy things, but what were you trying to segue to, Cindy?
So this is a great opportunity for us to segue to that video of our favorite guy, Ross. We know I'm bad with names, but
Wes Roth.
yeah, that's what I said. Um, and his review of Sam Altman speaking. Yep, this
Yeah.
one.
So
The progress over the recent scale is quite amazing. Our very first reasoning model was like a top 1 millionth competitive programmer in the world. People thought that was very impressive. It's like, wow, in AI, it's the millionth best people that do this. That's pretty good. We then had a model that got to like top 10,000. O3, which we talked about publicly in December, is the 175th best competitive programmer in the world. I think our internal benchmark is now around 50, and maybe we'll hit number 1 by the end of this year. So that's like an amazing rate of scale for more compute in this new paradigm, and we don't see any signs of that stopping.
So Sam Altman was taking some questions.
Yeah, and then
that is our friend Wes Roth.
Yeah.
He's like the beat reporter of AI, in my opinion. He's been around he's like, to me, there's been like all the people that have come. You have like Dave Shapiro that has been a while back, and Wes Roth a while back. But yeah, what a statement. So you got the 50th best coder in house, and by the end of the year you'll have number 1.
Okay, so to get back to my pushback on your 8 years, but first I got to know, and I'm sure Linda's wondering too, how do you measure a coder's rank or compare them? How does that work?
They have competition code, and like I am not a coder, and so but they have tests that everybody like standard tests. They try to throw novel questions at it, and it's it's one of those where like nobody ever gets 100, and it's like your rank, I think, is like based upon how quick, fast, what you get like pushed. Like I think it's like a number of things, and their competition coder is just beating out their best coders that are in their building. But competition code, I think, is I think the knock against that as a metric, that it's so funny because like every time somebody gets better at a metric in AI, somebody moves the goalposts. And so the knock against this is that it's just repeating knowledge that it had in its knowledge base. And in my mind, okay, if it can like if it's just repeating knowledge that it had in its thing, and it's fast, and it's able to not only interpret the question but like understand that question relates to this specific knowledge set in its code base, like it still means it's intelligent. Like it's one of those types of
Yeah.
things. But there are some knocks against it because it's more, is this artificial intelligence or is this just better recall? It's kind of like the question behind it. And it's weird because he talked about kind of the progress along the way and those jumps that have happened. And it's so funny to me whenever we talked about it when DeepSeek came out, was like these moments where like something gets cut by a 30th, or something gets 50% faster in 3 months, like there's these jumps have been happening for the last 2.5 years if you've been paying attention. And
Mm.
so like we went from 10,000 to 1,000 to 100 to 50, like that all happened in like a 2-year time frame. So
Yeah.
I get why you're saying 8 years, because that is pretty far out there. I just can't imagine that AI is so involved in our lives that it will know that I will want this light on this boom and be able to predict that I needed the fitting change. Like
Dude, you don't think that the company Amazon that just beat Walmart on one of the largest revenue generating companies, retailers, I think I'm getting it right. Don't at me if I got that wrong, but they just outbeat them. You don't think they're spending money on the biggest, most talked about thing
no,
in the tech
oh no,
industry?
it's actually Bezos, when he talks about it, is probably he's one of the people that I actually listen to, because there's a lot of leaders that kind of talk around the edges of it and don't actually say
Mhm.
something. But Bezos essentially like came out of retirement and has just been like every single domain, like vertical domains, they're like applying
Mhm.
AI, and like they're going from like a horizontal and vertical perspective. And he was talking about this in like October.
Wow.
Like he had an interview with Wall Street Journal. I would push anybody to go. It's like an hour and 15 minutes. It probably is not very hard because he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but he essentially came out of retirement just because he was like, this is just too cool not to play around with.
Mm.
Also, it affects everything that we do, from the physical things that we do to the software things that we do. This should just be integrated and into it. So fascinating person to follow in this. 1000% in my mind, they were going to use AI for their Amazon shopping experience.
Mm.
More focused on their AWS, like data center, like the
Mhm.
ability to go to companies and sell their services, because their tech stack is actually, if if you were to put Amazon, Microsoft, and Google like on like a corporate stack, you probably got Microsoft on any company that was running from like the 90s and 2000s. Google's like from like 2012s to 2018s. AWS, like from a corporate standpoint, like all these companies that's starting up, like AWS is like the things that they're leaning in towards now because of
Mhm.
AI. Some people are moving more to Google, but
Hmm.
yeah, Bezos is. Um, I shouldn't doubt it. I don't. I like
Yeah.
you're making me question.
Jeff, listen, Jeff. I not only do I believe in you more than Josh does, but I expect it. I want you connecting the dots with my spending trends, when I might be out of my toothpaste. If my husband realizes that we only have one paper roll left in our house before I have more toilet paper coming, especially the dude wipes, you know.
The,
So I
dude,
expect you to get things
imagine.
going.
Oh God,
Excuse
imagine.
Josh, okay, Jeff?
Imagine the poor AI that is running the algorithm that is guessing at when you need dude right wipes. Like
Yeah.
what like that is like food intake. And that is
Mhm.
like
What if our Aura ring starts getting connected? You know how they say like ask or allowed to analyze all, across the board, and you can say
Mhm.
allow while using. Like that's what it's coming to. And to some people that's invasive and scary. And to some people
Yeah.
that's just really relieving. I don't ever have to like, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and sensors. Linda was telling me I can't listen. Linda, I'm sorry I can't remember this movie. We were talking about this exact like thing that we thought was going to be coming, was like I think sensors in toilets just makes a lot of sense. Uh, and she was like, oh, that was like kind of like the movie XYZ, and it was like was like an island of clones of like billionaires that were like raising their clones to be like organ transplants or something along those lines. I remember the plot, can't remember the name of the movie. But yeah, absolutely. We're going to have personalization in this area. This is so much. I guess I'm sorry, Jeff. You're right. 8 years is a crazy. It's too long.
And we got that recorded, Jeff. Him saying you were right.
Who who would have ever thought that I would be like the more like conservative person on this? Like guessing. I guess I just have it in me that I'm like not important enough to be thinking about whether or not I need a fitting or not. And it's one of those things where I'm like, my wallet, I guess it's important enough for them to like predict I needed a fitting. And
Yeah.
I shouldn't have doubted that. That's a
There's a lot of other people wallets involved, because especially if we think about how much revenue they generate, so it's also not just you. You're not that important. You're important and not important all at the same time. So, anyways, when
what is your segue statement?
okay, mall cop.
No, you can't steal somebody else's. You gotta come up with your own.
Who else rides segways?
I don't know. That's an excellent. That's something. That's a chat GPT for
I'll
the
ask
use case
ChatGPT.
of next week.
ChatGPT and I will come up with it for sure. Okay, so then speaking of use cases, my other use case, the planned one, was, if you want to pull up the chat that I shared with you, Josh and I have been trying to come up with ways to close out our episode. As a matter of
Because
fact,
we're awful at it.
yeah. Did Linda post our bloopers?
She started working on it, and there was just so many. She's got it clipped. She's still working on it, but it's like a good 15 minutes of us struggling.
I love it. Yeah, and it was so much fun, but we couldn't come up with it. So one of the things that I did utilized AI, and I did this very quickly while Josh and I, right before we were signing on for today's episode. And on there, I did, so I prompted it. First of all, I have a whole channel in my chat GBT. I have one that's a lot, goes way farther back, but I can't find it right now. In the moment, I had to
this
do
is
this
like,
quickly.
this was like a previous conversation that you've had.
So what I've been trying to do is coach, and it is integrated in all of my chat GBT because I've been coaching it overall. But as far as threads, this is a shorter thread. I have longer ones, but to quickly be able to put this together, I did. Go ahead.
I see you. I didn't know. I didn't understand the Josh Braun reference earlier, but I see your prompting here.
Yes. So I love, to, I guess, take a step back. Whenever you're trying to promote your own business and your own services, there is sales involved in that. And I'm someone who, I'm just not a salesy person. I like to, solve, find pain points and solution sell, which just means consult. And so I've had a lot of different mentors on this on via LinkedIn, and I just got overwhelmed with how many people I was following. And I saw this post that said, commit to one coach. And so I committed to one coach. It was Josh Braun, or Brown. I don't know him personally, so I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your last name, but I love the way he words things. He's all about the human approach. And that's how I want to present myself online, because that's who I am in person. And I think it's the same thing for If This Then What, because that's just how you and I both are. So using his tips, I told ChatGPT, utilizing Josh Braun's tips and what you know so far about If This Then What, help me create a sign off for our episodes that helps promote people continuing their learning and how to build on what they're learning. Because we want you to this is to create a conversation around it, so you can go in the directions that you're interested in with this with what we're talking about. And then also trying to get y'all to like and subscribe so we can get more followers and stuff and better guide our content around our listeners' wants and needs. So yeah, I utilize ChatGPT to do that.
No, I think that the calling out like a specific character, like a person in real life that it can like reference as part of a like it's answering is so powerful. Like one of the prompts that I had done during the patent that like it had wrote for itself was act as a senior prompt reviewer and poke holes in this patent. Or act as a senior patent reviewer and poke holes at this patent and critique it, and like, and then from there, that process actually gave like my prompting more ideas in the exact same like arena of the things that I was doing. So like calling out like a specific person that has like some level of context within its brain to be able to reference as it's answering. The only tip that I would have,
Give it to me.
when you wrote this post, did you have the search function on?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that was really going to be my thing was if you were just prompting it and say, hey, use Josh Braun's tips, like Josh Braun would have to be somebody that was in its knowledge, like its training data for it to reference, or that would have been if it would have went haywire, like if it would have referenced something completely different, that would have been somebody like thinking that it was a hallucination, right? Like that's an example of when a hallucination would have was like you referenced somebody, you didn't have the right like framing around this, and you referenced somebody that it didn't have in its training data, and so it didn't do it correctly. So my tip was going to be first, when it comes to Josh Braun, what does he have to say about X, Y, and Z? Like make it think about those things before you actually get it to do those things, because you're asking it to do two steps. And again, we are way further than when Josh was learning how to prompt. But I have found even still that you get way better results when you get it to do the abstract thinking before you have it to like the more concrete thinking. And the abstract thinking is like internalizing who Josh Braun is and his like what his teaching methods are. And so if you have it research that person and then formalize its thoughts and then tell it to apply those thoughts to what you're doing, that's like the best like A+ prompting, because you're not having it do two things in the same thing. Now,
Got
when we
it.
get to more agent AI, where it's like a prompt leads to a prompt that leads to a prompt, like kind of what I've been doing with patents, like where I'm like having meta prompts that then prompt other prompts. That will then you will just need to say a goal, and your goal would be create a sign off, and it would then say who are all the characters out there that have really good sign offs. It would create its own context window. It would create its own like layer of things, and that's what like kind of that agentic, hey, here's the goal, the thing that you're doing, and it's going to set the best path to doing it, versus what AI currently is you just set the goal, it's just going to do it, but it's not going to have like a real framework of doing it. If that does that make sense?
No, that makes sense, I guess. And I'm thinking of this I think this is great, by the way, because I'm hoping that the user or that our users, our listeners, are seeing how this can get better. So Josh has had a lot more time to prompt AI. He's been on this for a while. And so it's funny to see like our progress and where we are. And so I'm loving this. This is where you develop more skills, because then I'm thinking, what are more questions? One of the things that I'm into right now in my personal life and professional life is getting better at asking better questions. Or yeah, you know what I'm saying? I want to ask better questions. And so now my brain goes to, well, what questions that could I ask to help prompt more abstract thinking of AI, and I could just ask it, if I want you to think more abstractly first before actually doing my prompt, what are questions that I could be asking you? And then it could generate the questions, and I could say, I
You,
could
I
talk
always
through
say
it over
give
time,
the
and
best
then
recommendations.
hmm,
Like ask give me 10 questions of in this area, and then I don't like when I prompt it in that way. I
mhm,
don't even read its response. Like, I know how it's going to
mhm,
respond. I know it's going to respond intelligently. I say, just give me 10 questions to ask myself in this area.
okay,
Don't read the response. My initial thing is, how would you answer those questions? It then has like taken its full resources to think of ways of like what are all the things that somebody should be focused on when talking about this thing? Like it's all of its resources just focus on those things. And then it's now taking all of its resources to like think about the most important questions that it could be like in an area. And then once it's gotten its answers and now it's like fully dialed into your context window, then you ask like your actual like go do this, because
okay,
now it's got like this like weird like this crazy again. AI is getting a lot better, and so it's like
mhm,
that's what that chain of thought is doing, which is funny because it's like when I started, there was no chain of thought. Like you had to lead it
mm,
down that path, which like when you have like a $20 subscription, you like you automatically opt in to, or anybody using their like chatbot like for
mhm,
free, you
mhm,
opt in to them studying the way that you use their AI. And
mhm,
so you like when we talk about like OpenAI's lead in this area and how like XAI might have a hard time catching up, it's because they have all the ways that we interact with their models. They've been the leader for the last 2.5 years. They've
yeah,
got data in areas that like nobody else even like can come close to like knowing how people naturally use AI. Like
yeah,
that's a moat that is just not easily overcome. So when I see like when Chain of Thought came out, I was like, this is literally every process that I've ever done interacting with like the old GPT-4
mhm,
before O1 came out, because now it's going through. But when you take the lessons that you learned at GPT-4 and then like if you use chain of thought reasoning to think of the questions, and then you use the strategic four to answer the questions, and then you use the chain of thought like to then go in and apply the answers to the questions that it thought of in an appropriate manner. Like when you start using those models in like a way that like complements the reason that they were like invented, that's in my mind everybody just wants like the best model, and you don't understand like you have to become like almost intimate with the model's like actual uses. And so that's why it's been
mhm,
very difficult for me to like other models actually feel very foreign to me to use, because like it's very difficult for me to use it because all my tricks that I do that like optimizes chat gpt doesn't
mhm,
work sometimes with
mhm,
other models.
yeah,
um and I think that that's really around the fact that like ChatGPT has had years of being the market leader of people using them, and they've got the data of how people naturally want to use AI.
yeah, yeah, and there's no getting ahead of that, because if you add in that head start that they got, along with the compounding effect of how quickly everything's developing, yeah, like Elon needs to redirect his focus of AI somewhere else, because
Elon's gonna Elon. You're not gonna redirect
yeah,
that guy. Um, so I really want to double click on what I was just talking about because it's really important to me, and I
go
have a
for it.
very hard time explaining it.
Okay.
And I'm going to challenge you to take what rambles I just did and put it in a way that other people might be able to internalize.
Yeah. So it sounds like to me, instead of me saying, well, not instead of, but just an added thought is to, rather than ask ChatGPT to say, hey, come up with the best with our podcast in mind and Josh Braun's tips, create a sign off for us for our podcast. And instead I could say, if we're trying to create a sign off, what are the give me 10 questions about sign offs that I should be asking you. And then
you would use a chain of thought reasoning model to do that, right? Because it's got to think.
What
It's
does that
got to
mean?
first say, so chain of thought is, so with ChatGPT, that is their O1 like a line. And now their O3 mini and their O3 mini high line, where it first like reasons when, I think it would be really cool, because I love this feature that they've started putting into. Okay, so when I just type a question into ChatGPT 4.0, what is chain?
You want to share your screen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
What is chain of thought? It's going to immediately just start answering it. And this model, its only goal is to predict the next word. Like, if you just think about its only job is to predict what is next happening, it's really good at predicting the next thing that's going to happen, but its just job is to answer the question. If I switch to a reasoning model,
and why would someone switch to a reasoning model?
Reasoning model is going to first, so I'll switch to ChatGPT Pro because it actually like talks you through. So you can click over here onto this details.
Okay.
And it's just going to say chain of thought reasoning, clarify step by step. Like, it's answering the question, but then it's going to start like thinking about like what my, like how to interpret my question. And it's curious that it's not doing it on this one, because it's like, it goes like, it has like a whole internal dialogue with itself. Here,
I think you've shown me this
O3.
before.
So it is going through here and just like
Mm-hmm.
talking to itself. And
Okay.
O3 mini high is like super quick at thinking to itself. So when you are asking a question of what are all the list 10 questions that somebody might want to answer in this area, you first, like, your human, like, think how your human brain thinks. It's first like, you're asking me a question about this industry. What do I know about this industry? This industry has X, Y, and Z. That is literally the process that a chain of thought reasoning is going to do. It's going to like take it from like first principles. This is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of that. But what's the second thing that's going to come to mind? What's the third thing? What's the fourth thing? And then I'm going to apply every lesson that I learned along that, like, those four chains to then answer the question, versus just predicting the next word. So when we were back before they had chain of thought, you had to kind of like lead for ChatGPT 4 to doing chain of thought. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like, so when I'm trying to think of a good example. When you come to a meeting and it's supposed to be a brainstorming session, if you just ask the question and have them answer it, it's like one person there's a leader at the end of the table, and then their team around the rest of the table, and one person on the team asking a question, and the leader answers, and that's it. Just based off of what they know, versus what it sounds like to me that you're saying about a chain of reasoning. Is that
Chain of thought.
Train of thought is as if the entire table just went back and forth. If someone asks a question and one person goes, well, how do we answer this question? what do we need to gather to be able to answer this question to the best of our abilities? And then everyone just starts brainstorming. And it's like the thought process of getting to the brainstorming end of the answer, right?
Yep.
Does
Yeah.
that
So
capture it?
yeah, and then the leader, like when I say, then you would switch. So you would ask the question, and you just brainstormed about all the you've thrown all the ideas up on the wall of like all the things that could be doing, and then the leader, being a good leader, then says, "Let me summarize what you just did," and like that's the person that you want answering those questions. Like,
Mhm.
you want the direct answers, you want the quick answers, you want the first thing that comes to mind whenever you're asking those questions. You don't necessarily need sometimes if you've got really complex questions, you might need chain of thought reasoning for it, but you really want just all of its thoughts going into just its first initial reaction so that you understand what is at the closest of its context window whenever it's answering
Yeah.
the question. And so then once you've had that, and then you say, now apply everything that you've now just brought to the surface to this application here,
Mhm.
um, is exactly how the best way to use OpenAI. But everything that I just said, I'm not as successful doing that in Gemini. I'm not as
Hmm.
successful doing that in
Interesting.
other tools because those other tools have been set up with their their own ethos. Like they've been trained on whoever the early adopters were that naturally gravitated to them. That's how they've been trained to actually interact with
Mm.
them. And so it's literally you just have to figure out what is we're doing testing at my company, and it's you have to
Mhm.
first figure out like what makes this model tick. Like you have to ask it questions that you have previously interacted with other models, and you understand how that model works, and now apply it to a different model so that then you understand how it thinks and ticks
Mm.
along the way. It really, again, it's very human like. It's just you're trying to figure out what type of person this AI model is whenever you're interacting with it.
It's like the different Hogwarts houses.
It really is. That's like
Yeah.
that podcast that I created where it's different perspectives. Like it's the same model that's
Mhm.
doing the things, but it's got different perspectives that it's approaching it from different directions. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Well,
I
I've
love that.
got
Thanks for
my
challenging me with that. That's awesome.
yeah, I've
I hope
got
everyone learned something.
my last use case
Let's hear it.
of the day.
Mhm.
And DeepMind AlphaFold, their original interactions was it understanding genes and the cascading effects of genes, and
Mm.
when something happens in your human biome, what are the things that get turned on and off. And it's the big headline that you heard, I feel like a year and a half ago, was that the full genes had been modeled and had been sequenced.
Mm.
And so AlphaFold was your first you can say this happened to this gene. So what are the cascading effects of that? Now what DeepMind, and again this is all open source, DeepMind's AlphaFold Interact was you can now say what are the effects of these drug molecules on these proteins on this DNA strand, right? And so it's
Mhm.
the kind of that cascading effect of everything kind of layers to one another, where it's I first have to understand genes. I first then have to understand how those genes interact and fold into one another. And then now if I introduce this other thing that I have a high understanding of what that drug does inside the body, I now can understand what it's going to do to the proteins within your body. And so, when we talk about new sciences being developed, this is happening everywhere. Any science person, you go talk to them and just be like, hey, what's go-" I was talking to a doctor the other day that was they're doing pilots, and he's a young doctor that's successful, and he's part of these pilots, and he's like, it helps me so much. And so
Mm.
that's the world I want to live in, Sydney.
Yeah, that's your use case.
That's the use case. That's the AI in the news.
With
That's not
AI,
my use
I was like,
case, but that's
so
the
how are you using this?
well, what I
Anderson, he's
installed.
looking into your genetics, bud.
I installed sensors in my poop, or not sensors in my poop, but sensors in my toilet, and
Okay.
we're analyzing the effect of what. I don't even know
Hey,
where to
we
go with
joke,
that.
but a year
I
from
just,
now, we joke. Hey, yes, and a year from now, this might actually be real, and then we'll be eating our words. So who knows?
yeah, yeah. I definitely think a year from now you're gonna have your first toilets that have some type of sensor in there, and it's gonna be like, no way. And then all like the rich people are gonna get it first.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be a meme at first. Like, who would buy something as crazy as this? And like all the rich people are gonna buy it. And they're gonna be like,
Yeah,
oh, they know something we don't know.
because your
Like,
gut is everything. Do you know how much you can learn from your poop?
yeah, that everything.
I'll
It's
buy
gonna
it.
just be like, hey, go eat an orange right now. Vitamin C would like help you cut 3 pounds today.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the types
Mm-hmm.
of prompts that like,
Yeah.
and on top of that, we're gonna be wearing glasses that have cameras that are looking at it. And like we're just gonna be going to the grocery store, and it's just gonna be like picking the things out that like I don't even know what I'm cooking yet, but it's like preparing like the perfect meals to my
Yeah.
palate that are is I give that like that augmented reality based upon like perfect meals and all that. I give that 2.5 years. 2.5 years.
2.5? You don't think there's more emphasis on people's health now more than ever?
Oh man, I am being out. I'm being out. You're outdoing me. I want to be the conservative because I the speed at which things are going to change is people just are not ready. Like it's going to change so fast. And
Mhm.
I know, like when I think about the the people that I love that did not grow up with social media that are now interacting with social media in ways that like you're like, how do you not know that that's fake? Like they're sending you like the like beware of this XYZ thing, and you're just like, you're not ready for this world. And like it's only going to get quicker, faster, better at manipulating you. And like I'm gonna be challenged to know what is real and what's not. I think
Yeah, did you see that LinkedIn video that showed, like, Cardi B hugging Putin? And it
yeah,
showed, like, big people in America and totally AI generated. I mean, if it's the boomers generation of their parents' generation getting fake phone calls saying that they need $5,000. This is what the boomers are gonna experience are,
yeah.
the AI generated videos.
Yeah. Yep. That's the only thing that just like I want to believe it's slower than what it actually is. But then when you start pushing me and like you make me use my logic that I've seen how fast it is and how fast it's not only how fast it's been, but how fast it's accelerating. Because it used to be like 6 to 8 months that you would get a new model, and now it's every 3 months. And like all those models are just creating better software. And like again, it's that repeating cycle over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. On that happy note, you ready to sign us out?
Yeah, let's give this another try. All right, listeners. So, if today's conversation got you thinking, that was our goal. Here's a question. Who in your circle would find this episode valuable? Maybe it's a friend navigating AI in their industry, a colleague that loves big what if questions, or someone always on the lookout for fresh ideas. We know who those individuals are. Send this their way. It could spark a game changing conversation between the two of you. And you too can be engaging in the progressiveness of AI.
And if you got something out of this, don't stop there. Keep the momentum going. Hit the like, subscribe, and stay engaged as we keep exploring the ideas shaping the future of work, innovation, and business. We'll catch you next time on If This Then What, when curiosity fuels action and what ifs turns into what's next.